So this is Ask Alan about Devtools, and I assume that's browser Devtools, not just any.
Yeah, just to narrow it down.
I will only respond to questions. I will not pontificate.
How many browsers do you use Devtools in, Alan?
So,
which ones?
So I prefer the Chrome ones. I
Yeah.
like the Chrome ones. I'm familiar with those. I know how they work. Firefox, I will periodically use as well, but I tend to use Firebug. I still use Firebug in Firefox. I'm trying to learn how to use the other browsers, not necessarily just because I know that we constantly have to test on all the different browsers, but because what I want to be aware of is when one of the browsers comes up with a really cool piece of functionality that I've never seen before that will add value into my testing. Right? So when you suddenly learn that, so one of the things I found recently was even view source. This isn't DevTools. This is view source. The most basic thing you can possibly do in a browser to view the source. Firefox shows you syntax errors. None of the other view sources show you syntax errors, but Firefox does. And so having that difference between browsers is really interesting.
I didn't know Firefox showed you syntax errors. Of course it should. Oh, lovely.
I think that's fairly new. I saw that recently.
But the other ones,
I don't recall seeing it previously.
Are those HTML syntax errors and syntax in the JavaScript?
HTML.
Right. Super. Okay, that's cool. What are the sort of 3 basic things you should know how to do in DevTools?
So what I
give
tend
us
to
5
do,
if you like.
so it also depends what you're doing.
Okay.
Right? If you're automating a web application, you need to know how to do an inspect element, access the DOM, to view what is around it. You need to know how to use the find functionality in order to check that your locators work. So I tend to use the Chrome find feature because that will let me do CSS locators, next paths, find the elements in there. So I no longer have to rely on Firepath in Firebug in Firefox anymore. So I can actually use the Chrome search for that. If I'm doing manual work and interaction with it, I like to again view the DOM to see what's going on. I'll view the source to see what it's made up of, to see whether we're packing the JavaScript in minimized, whether the JavaScript is visible for me to see what's going on, to understand the structure of the application. And I'll also use the network tab to get a feel for what the thing is doing as I use it. Because we used to have to use proxies all the time to do a lot of this, but now we can do a lot of that in the DevTools itself.
And you can see various things coming in at various times on your...
Yeah, so the network tab really gives you an insight into what your application is doing. Because sometimes you think it's actually going off the server, and it's not. It's using local storage, it's building cookies, it's building that page dynamically. It's not doing anything with the server. At that point, you're not really testing a web application, you're testing JavaScript in a page. It changes how you think about what you're testing.
Okay. It's a good thing to know. So Chrome is the primary one. Firefox does syntax highlighting. Do DevTools exist in every browser? Because I've never managed to turn it on in Safari on my iPod.
Sorry, so the mobile ones.
PCs?
So the mobile ones don't tend to have the DevTools, but they might support remote debugging facilities. In which case, so if it's Chrome, you can hook Chrome into your mobile device and use the DevTools on your browser to access the browser on your mobile device.
I did not know that. That's cool.
See exactly the same things.
Yeah. All right. That's something for me to try. Does it have to be Chrome on the mobile device?
So I've only used it on Chrome. I assume the Safari one must do a similar thing because like Apple lock everything down and they hate everyone. They just want you to spend your money, but they don't give you access to the innards of this thing.
So I've got to try that. I've got to try DevTools on Safari and see if I can get it going on my iPod. That'd be very cool. Lovely. Okay. So how did you go about learning about the DevTools or what they can do?
So part of the thing for me is I love magic, right, but not with the stuff that I'm using, right? Because if it's magic and I don't understand it, then I'm missing things. And if I can't observe a level that's underneath, I get really nervous because it's done something and I can't check. I assume that everyone that I'm speaking to lies to me. I assume that everything that I'm using lies to me. I assume that the browser is lying to me. We know that the browser lies to us. When we look at the source in the DOM view, the browser is lying to us because the browser has taken the source you've given it and fixed it and then rendered it and gone, it was perfectly fine when it was garbage. You gave it an H1 with an H2 end tag and it went, it's an H1. I'll just render it this way and I'll show it. So we know there's lying to us, and we have to figure out how to go below that. And but also, you're trying to figure out how to manipulate this thing at a lower level. Like, I don't always want to have to click on the web browser to use the web browser. I want to do things that it won't let me. I'll be filling in a form and it will have some JavaScript, and the JavaScript will say you can't type this in, and I'll want to type that in. So I need to figure out how to do that. So I know I can do that with the proxy. I know I can do that by changing the DOM. I know I can do that by switching off the JavaScript. I need to have multiple ways of approaching as many problems as I have, because some of them are going to work on some systems and some of them are not going to work on other systems, so I need options. So for me it's always, can I observe this in passing? Can I manipulate it? Can I interrogate this in more detail at any point that I need to?
Are there any features that are not in Devtools that you'd like to see in
So the main thing, so Devtools have been taken away from proxies. The one thing that Devtools don't do that proxies still let you do is to resend requests and manipulate those requests when you send them. Right? Devtools will let you see what requests are coming in, and you can investigate them pretty well, and you can see all the headers. What you can't do is re-trigger the request. So you still need the proxy. And then it's all the building on top of that, like fuzzing it, having responses that come back. But you wouldn't necessarily expect a browser dev tool to support that. So I still have to use proxies for those things.
Where do you go to learn about these things? Because a couple of years ago, I found a thing by Adi Osmani talking about the Google DevTools, so the Chrome DevTools, and it was an eye-opener to me, because I'd been into the DevTools, I'd used them, and suddenly he's saying, well, in the new DevTools, there's all these things that you don't know about that builds on things that, damn it, I didn't know about either. And I thought that was there was a great presentation, as Adi Osmani's thing on the Google DevTools, Chrome DevTools a couple of versions ago. Is that where you find out about these things? Just a dev presentation that happens to have been recorded, or are there books about these?
So
release notes?
There's no books about it, because the books would go out of date way too fast. I'm pretty sure I have saved in my RSS feeder a whole bunch of articles on new features in the DevTools, but I always forget to go back to them, or I don't have time to look at the courses that Google set out there to teach them. But if you've got the time, that's a good way to start, because it'll show you. I have put a lot of this information in Technical Web Testing 101, which is...
Have you now?
But the way that you learn most of this is by using the tools as part of your testing. Right? What you do is, if you're testing a web app, just start testing the web app, get the DevTools up, and see what each of the tabs does when you test it. And go, do I understand what this is telling me? If you don't understand what it's telling you, you go away and do a Google search and say, what is this tab? What is this network tab? And then click on it, and suddenly you go, well, there's new information. What is this request? What is this header? I don't understand it. And just keep exploring it, and right-click on everything. Click every button.
Yeah, it was fascinating in Addy's talk how he was saying, well, yeah, you right-click on this and you get this new bit of functionality up, or press Control here. And oh, Christ, I've never pressed Control at the same time as clicking in a dev tool, and suddenly there's functionality there that I just don't know about that is useful to me as a tester. So it's one of those things, it's there, it's under the hood, it's always there.
So always have it open, right? Inspect. But the danger is if as soon as you open it, your website can behave differently.
Yes.
Because sometimes it might not honour the cache headers, so it's constantly going to wake in the JavaScript all the time. Yeah. So it might behave differently, and you have to be aware of that.
Safari's got problems. If you open the dev tool up, it changes the size of the window that it's operating in, but it doesn't tell the software underneath properly that it's doing that. So if you open it and close it a couple of times, your application is usually going, I don't know where my edges are! And so at least mine are.
But also, in Chrome and the other browsers, they've got those accessibility tools that let you check, or the responsiveness type tools that let you simulate whether it's an iPhone size, or and sometimes they'll let you change the headers, so you can actually force the server to give you a different response back because it thinks you're on an iPhone if it's giving out the right headers. So there's masses of stuff in these browsers.
Handy when somebody tweets the mobile link and you don't want it.
Yep.